Welcome to the Confined Space Training for Field Technicians and Sales. The purpose of the course is to provide a general understanding of the TKE Confined Space Reclassification Program, the requirements and the processes involved with the implementation of this program. All employees involved in confined space, any classification, entry operations must receive confined space entry training to ensure they possess the understanding, knowledge, and skills necessary for the safe performance of their assigned duties. Attention! TKE employees must be able to reclassify a permit-required confined space to a non-permit-required confined space prior to enter. Confined space definition. A confined space means a space that, 1. Is large enough and so configured that an employee can bodily enter and perform assigned work. 2. Has limited or restricted means for entry or exit, and 3. Is not designed for continuous human occupancy. Examples of confined spaces include but are not limited to manholes, sewers, storm drains, water mains, pipelines, drill shafts, enclosed beams, digesters, lift stations, underground utility vaults, tunnels, wind turbines, concrete pier towers, transformer vaults, tanks, process vessels, bins, pits, silos, boilers, incinerators, ventilation or exhaust ducts, pipe chassis, crawl spaces, and attics. Permit-required confined space definition. A permit-required confined space means a confined space that either 1. Contains or has the potential to contain a hazardous atmosphere. 2. Contains a material that has the potential for engulfing an entrant. 3. Has an internal configuration such that an entrant could be trapped or asphyxiated by inwardly converging walls or by a floor which slopes downward and tapers to a smaller cross-section, or 4. Contains any other serious safety or health hazard. Note: all confined spaces are considered to be a permit-required confined space until the space is reclassified as non-permit-required confined space. OSHA Confined Space Regulations. OSHA Confined Space Regulations as they pertain to elevator pits. New construction and modernization of existing elevators do not generally subject the elevator pits to an accumulation of toxic or flammable contaminants and does not present oxygen-deficient atmospheres. Where the elevator contractor has knowledge that hazardous or potentially hazardous operations are carried out in close proximity to the construction or modernization of an elevator pit, for example, construction in chemical or petroleum processing plants, it is recommended that elevator companies obtain certification from the host employer that the area is neither subject to an accumulation of flammable or toxic substances nor oxygen deficient. Roles and responsibilities. Our company's designated competent person is responsible for identifying all confined spaces before the start of work. The competent person must notify all employers who have workers on site that a permit-required or non-permit-required confined space is present on the site, its location, and any hazards it poses. Supervisors shall identify and report all job areas and locations that are or may be confined spaces. For each confined space that will be accessed by TKE reclassification form must be completed. We'll have a list of confined spaces that are identified and will be accessed by TKE. TKE employees must be able to reclassify a permit-required confined space to a non-permit-required confined space prior to enter. All employees must complete the TKE permit-required confined space reclassification checklist, located in the safety manual, and posted in front of the entrance to the non-permit-required confined space. If hazards arise within a permit space that has been declassified to a non-permit confined space under this section, each employee in the space shall exit the space. The confined space shall then be reevaluated by the competent person and entry supervisors to determine whether it must be reclassified as a permit space or alternative entry. Employees will enter into space only if the space can safely be reclassified to a non-permit required confined space. Summary. TKE policy prohibits entry into any confined spaces without first identifying and, if necessary, eliminating or isolating all potential hazards. Before workers enter a permit-required confined space, TKE will make every effort to eliminate or isolate all existing or potential hazards in order to reclassify the confined space to classify the space as a non-permit-required confined space as permitted by OSHA regulations. The procedures set forth in this program must be followed by all employees prior to entering into a confined space of any type, shape, configuration, or classification. Thank you for completing the confined space training.